Today is Thursday, December 21st. We'll tell you about one of the biggest and multifaceted hostage deals the U.S. has ever made with a hostile foreign government. Also, heavy rain, snow, and flooding are impacting millions of Americans ahead of some busy travel days. Plus, who might be getting a Christmas bonus from the IRS? Which startup that was one of the fastest to hit $1 billion valuation is now filing for bankruptcy? And all about the first day of winter. Those stories and even more news to know next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Well, it took months of negotiations between top American and Venezuelan officials. But in the end, they reached a deal that included the largest release of American prisoners in Venezuela's history. 10 Americans who have been in Venezuelan custody arrived back on American soil last night as part of the high-profile prisoner swap. White House officials simply said the swap was 10 Americans and a fugitive from justice in exchange for one Venezuelan prisoner in U.S. custody. Though there is more to it than that. On top of the 10 Americans, the fugitive the Biden administration got back on U.S. soil is a defense contractor known as Fat Leonard. He's at the center of one of the U.S. Navy's largest corruption cases. Fat Leonard was set to be sentenced last year, but escaped house arrest by cutting off his ankle monitor and fleeing to Venezuela. Now that he's back, he's facing up to 25 years in prison. Of course, the Biden administration had to give something up, too. The person the U.S. released in this swap is a close ally of Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro. Alex Saab has been facing trial for money laundering in connection to a bribery scheme. He's also been accused of funneling millions of dollars from corrupt contracts through American banks and helping Venezuela evade U.S. sanctions. Still, the Venezuelan government says he should never have been arrested, arguing Saab was a special envoy on a humanitarian mission who is entitled to diplomatic immunity. Either way, he is back in Venezuela now. In response to all of this, President Biden is getting some pushback from those who say deals like this play into the hands of authoritarian leaders and encourage others to take more hostages. The White House admits it was a tough call, but insists the U.S. got more than it gave up. On top of the prisoner exchange, the U.S. negotiated other concessions from Venezuela, like the release of 20 Venezuelan political prisoners, and Venezuela agreed to work toward making elections free and fair. On the other side, the White House agreed to suspend some sanctions on Venezuelan oil and gold, though the U.S. says those sanctions can be reimposed if Maduro doesn't hold up his end of the deal. Texas is sending migrants out of state in a new way now, private charter planes. Remember, since last year, Texas has bused more than 80,000 immigrants to Democratic-led cities around the country, like New York City, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., Denver, and Chicago. And now Texas is going a step further by actually flying some migrants to Chicago. It's happening because Chicago officials have been getting tougher about some of the buses coming from Texas, saying they ignore city rules. And last week, a new Chicago law started allowing city officials to impound buses sent from Texas that have either not been coordinated with them 48 hours in advance or don't arrive at the official landing zone during official business hours. So the first flight from Texas went out this week. And Texas Governor Greg Abbott's office says they'll keep coming, along with buses, until the federal government better secures the border. Now, Chicago officials say they're working to find space for migrants who right now are staying at O'Hare Airport. Also of note, when it comes to Texas cracking down on illegal immigration, the state's newly passed law to allow local and state police to arrest migrants who cross the border illegally is now facing a legal challenge. Despite that, and the law not set to go into effect right away, one top police official told Fox News arrests have already begun. More American Jewish groups have decided to increase security. And this time, it's in response to hundreds of fake bomb threats as part of a so-called swatting spree. Swatting is when someone makes false reports in an attempt to draw SWAT teams to a certain place, prompting chaos, evacuations, detentions, and sometimes there are even deadly consequences. Well, this recent spree targeted almost 200 Jewish synagogues and schools around the country. And all of the false reports are still under investigation. But the FBI apparently has leads. ABC News saw a confidential FBI memo that says it is believed the incidents are connected and are being orchestrated outside of the U.S., though so far, no other details. Now, many Jewish groups say this could be a security issue, especially since harassment and attacks against both Jewish and Arab people have increased significantly since the start of the war in Gaza. So Jewish institutions are once again adding new safety measures while law enforcement keep tracking the threats. For the third year in a row, a record number of Americans decided to sign up for health care under the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare. Preliminary data from the federal government shows more than 19 million people will enroll for 2024, and that is a 33% increase from last year, which was also a record. As you know, the ACA offers some options and possibly some discounts to Americans who aren't already getting insurance through their employer. And this year, there were some unusual factors that might have boosted enrollment more than usual. Like those who were disenrolled from Medicaid this year, they were allowed to sign up for Obamacare plans early. Also, more insurers participated in the program this year, so customers got more options. Since the ACA first passed in 2010, the number of Americans without health insurance has been cut in half. Still, about 25 million Americans do not have any coverage right now. So federal health officials are urging anyone who hasn't signed up yet to do so soon, before the enrollment period ends in 3 weeks. We have more news for you still ahead, but first a quick break for our sponsor, AG1. The nutritional drink AG1 has become part of my morning routine. I first gave AG1 a try because we were talking about partnering and I wanted to make sure I actually liked it. Well, I now take AG1 every day before I eat anything else, and I was surprised at how quickly I started noticing a difference. It makes me feel ready to take on the day. I feel a boost in energy. I find myself not reaching for coffee or tea quite as often. And if you're not familiar, AG1 can replace a lot of the other supplements you might take, like a daily multivitamin, minerals, pre- and probiotics for gut health, adaptogens, and a greens blend. And you get it all in just one scoop of powder. I always put in ice water with a splash of lemon juice, mix, and I'm ready to go. AG1 is made from 75 of the highest quality whole food sourced ingredients from around the world, intentionally curated for their ability to nourish all of the body's systems in harmony. If you're looking for a simpler, effective investment for your health, try AG1 and get 5 free AG1 travel packs and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/newsworthy. That's drinkag1.com/newsworthy. Check it out. Now back to the news. Millions of Californians gearing up to travel for the holidays might face some setbacks. A powerful rainstorm is hitting the California coast, with the bullseye of it hitting just north of Los Angeles. Though flood watches are posted all the way south to San Diego. Long travel delays and road closures are likely since there's a high risk of flooding, especially in areas that have been burned by recent wildfires. Rock slides and mudslides are also possible. When all is said and done, some areas of Southern California might get up to 10 inches of rain. The storm is also expected to bring up to a foot of snow to the highest peaks of the Sierra Nevada. It's expected to last until tomorrow when the system moves off to Arizona, Utah, and Nevada. So this is being called one of the most significant attempts to strengthen consumer privacy in more than a decade. The Federal Trade Commission wants to expand protections for children online. So, for example, it wants to require that targeted ads for children are turned off by default. The FTC also wants to limit notifications that encourage kids to return to their apps when they're not actively using them. Plus, it wants to restrict what it called surveillance in schools, meaning educational technology companies will only be allowed to collect and use data from students if it's for educational purposes authorized by the school and not to make money, and so on. The FTC plans to add all those provisions to an existing children's privacy law. So far, major tech companies like Meta and Google have not commented. The FTC is taking public comment for the next couple of months before it could make the rule change final. The social media platform X suffered a widespread outage early this morning that impacted thousands of users in several countries. X, which you might remember as Twitter, mostly stopped working for more than an hour. And since then, people's timelines have reappeared, though it's still not clear exactly what caused this outage. And by the way, it's actually just the latest outage of many. Just last week, another issue broke outgoing links for a couple of hours. There were also more widespread technical problems in March, July, and October. In the past, Reuters has cited sources who say a lot of engineers who used to be responsible for fixing and preventing service outages were laid off when Elon Musk acquired the platform. Though again, it's not clear at this point if they would have been able to stop these most recent issues. Electric scooter company Bird has filed for bankruptcy. The on-demand e-scooter rental company was pitched as an environmentally friendly, affordable, and fun way to get around town. And it was popular after starting operations in 2017. But it never really recovered after COVID lockdowns forced people inside. Bird also says it has been facing costly personal injury lawsuits, tight margins, and more competition. The company was valued at $2.5 billion just 4 years ago, but its share price has collapsed since going public. It was delisted from the New York Stock Exchange in September. Bird says its services will operate as usual, at least during the bankruptcy proceedings in court. Well, some people, businesses, and organizations behind on their federal taxes are getting a bit of relief. The Internal Revenue Service is forgiving about $1 billion in penalties for nearly 5 million taxpayers. The IRS says it stopped alerting these taxpayers about overdue payments as it dealt with a pandemic backlog last year. So some people may not have realized they still owed money and that penalties were growing. The penalty relief applies to taxpayers who owe less than $100,000 in taxes for 2020 or 2021. Eligible taxpayers will receive a special notice in a couple of weeks reflecting their new balances due. And if you are eligible for this but already paid, you'll get a refund or credit on your IRS account as early as this week. The savings is about $200 per taxpayer, and most make under $400,000 a year. To be clear, these taxpayers will still have to pony up for the amount they owe from 2020 and 2021, just not the penalties. Well, that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. But first, this episode is sponsored by Lumi. If you need a last-minute gift or stocking stuffer, I've got you covered. Because with Lumi, you're not just giving deodorant, you're giving confidence that they're smelling fresh all day. And get this, Lumi is on the top of the most wished-for list on Amazon for personal care products, so you know you're getting something people want. And for good reason. Lumi is a game-changing whole-body deodorant that is clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. It's baking soda and paraben-free. It's pH balanced to use anywhere. It is my new favorite deodorant. It actually works. And it's clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. Treat yourself or someone you know with Lumi's Starter Pack. Lumi's Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. And as a special offer for our listeners, new customers get $5 off a Lumi Starter Pack with code NEWSWORTHY at lumipodcast.com. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you visit lumipodcast.com. That's Lume, lumipodcast.com, and use the code NEWSWORTHY. Now back to Thing to Know Thursday. Today marks the first official day of winter, as the winter solstice happens tonight for the Northern Hemisphere. And that means it's the shortest day and the longest night of the year. At exactly 10:27 p.m. Eastern Time, the Northern Hemisphere will be tilted as far away from the sun as possible. And so everyone who lives north of the equator, including the entire U.S. and 90% of the world's population, will see daylight shorter than 12 hours today. Many ancient cultures celebrated the winter solstice, and some still honor those traditions. One of the most famous takes place at Stonehenge in England, as people gather to watch as the sunset aligns with the monument. Here in the U.S., some indigenous people in Alaska mark the day with ceremonies, feasts, and dancing. While today may bring plenty of darkness, it's on the way out. Starting tomorrow, each day will bring a bit more daylight in the Northern Hemisphere until the summer solstice in June 2024. All right, thank you so much for listening today. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.